No, I don't care.
How's my lighting? You may soften up my lighting a little bit.
No, you look good, dude. I'm just gonna check the Twitch real quick.
Do I need more blue? Let me get some blue up in this. Um,
Nice. So we're live on Twitch, checking YouTube. You know, it'd be
really live?
funny. Yeah,
That's
we're live.
terrible. That's a terrible idea.
Why? Like, who gave us
Did you
access to
really?
the internet?
Did you really start this right when I belched?
Oh yeah, that was the intro. You think I'm gonna edit that out? Absolutely not. I'm just kidding. That wasn't on there. I waited until you were
That was.
done, which was like 4 to 5 seconds. Mind you, I think you need to see a doctor.
I just had a Canada Dry. I'm like intestinal damage.
Yeah, man. All right. You ready? Hold on. Game
Yeah.
face.
I don't even know what we're talking about.
Exactly. That's the point. This is beautiful. All
Can I
right.
shuffle card? Can I shuffle cards while we talk?
Only if you go real fast like the pro players.
All right. All
N-
right. Guess the card in my hand.
7 of clubs.
Close. It's render silent. Boom.
Is this your card? Is this your card? You should play
That would be
that
the most
game.
annoying control player when you play
That would
something.
be
Guess
hilarious.
the card in my hand.
Yeah.
Render silent.
Um, but uh, so welcome to another live episode. Obviously, if you're listening to the recording, it's no longer live. Beep beep. Of always
Yeah.
choose violence, MTG, and there you go. We're here to talk about a really interesting theory in Magic: The Gathering, the rock paper scissors analogy. But first, JJ, how you doing, man? What's new? What's new in the world of JJ?
Not bad. Just barely got my head just barely above water. Just like paddling, paddling as fast as I can.
In life, or trying to keep up
in
with this
life,
Pioneer metagame?
in life, but I think I'm settling in on where I need to be because
Right?
we have settled in on a date for our next RCQ.
Oh yeah. When is it?
Yes. June 29th is the
Let's
day.
go.
TC
So
Rockets is the place.
so
It's a
tonight,
lot.
right after we talk about this, we're gonna jump right into testing because we're all
Yeah.
business, right? We can't be talking about that. We can't have hockey jerseys and not be able to deliver results. All
That
right.
was the standard we set at the
That is
beginning.
the standard. JJ refused to let me wear my jersey in public until I do something noteworthy. And
Yeah.
I've been on a grind ever since.
Yeah. And you did get a top 8, so
I
there's
got a
something
top
going.
8. I cashed a tournament, but it's not good enough. Well, you tell I have to talk to my therapist now because of you. You know, what I do is not good enough. I am not enough. All right. I have to achieve in order to get approval. All right.
Yeah,
There's a
one of
lot
us
to unpack there, but that's not the scope of this podcast.
one of us one of us has to go to an RC. Like one of us has to get an invite. Like when we have to win
You know what?
an RCQ.
I decided today, I don't care how long it takes. I want to at least continue doing this ACV MTG thing
Yeah.
until one of us gets on a pro tour or it gets the invite to the pro tour. We don't even have to go because lives are restricting, but like just to say you had the chance.
Do we have to tell our wives?
Well, hopefully we're, if I tell Sarah that this stupid card game that I play is gonna have a marginal return on investment.
Yeah. We could win tens of dollars as professional Magic the Gathering players.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
We
heard
could get our
someone.
own discount code to TCG
I
players.
I heard something really funny today. I was listening to another Magic podcast, and they were like, if these pro players spent as much time as they did, you know, prepping for and being on the pro tour, they can make much more money doing literally anything else.
Like they could get like a
Which is a
bodyguard.
problem, Watsy. Okay, not. um, but so what was your week in Magic like? What did you take away this week? Did you learn anything? Did you improve at all?
Yeah, so we went out last week, right? And we went to Tabletop Tavern. I walked in there with a Insole artifact deck, and it really uh, got me in the mood to solidify the decks I want to train on. And what I did was I went home after that and I filled out. I'll show you. This is these are the 6 decks. All right.
Whoa, you're
These are the
organized.
these are the 6 decks that I think I want to focus on to become a more competitive Magic player. And also, I think I need to familiarize myself with a little bit more to be more competitive.
Okay, so you went to a local game store,
Hmm.
you played a tournament, and you're like, you got hit in the face with the metagame again,
Yeah.
and although you didn't do terribly, you had a
Well,
better record than I did
it
for
wasn't
once.
scary though. I was well, we didn't get hit with the meta game. We got hit with the schmeta game, which was slightly less than the meta game. Like we got hit with some. I think one guy that played me, I kindly a day later, I realized I bet he was playing Insidious Roots in his day.
You never saw it played. You killed him before it happened, but
which which that's how you can tell you're playing against an Insidious Roots player. They never play Insidious Roots.
yeah,
You're like,
I
by the time you have it in your hand, the game's over.
I'd say for me, I had a really I think it's almost like there's this chase for magic nirvana. And I feel like I've reached a new echelon in that path, in that journey, in that I notice my card evaluation is really good.
Hmm.
Like I feel like I'm at a point right now, at least in the Pioneer game, right? Because we're so niched on a format that I can take a look at a deck, take a look at a metagame, and then tech that deck exactly how I need it to perform its thing. And I think that comes from a couple of places. So let me do the whoops, the magic pointing upwards because I'm definitely
Are we eat,
gonna
are we
link.
eating our mics now?
I'm I'm definitely gonna link the whiteboard series part one, how to get ready for an RCQ, where I go over my deck teching. But I really think the genesis in this improving portion for me comes from how much I played Amalia, leading up to the first RCQ of the season. Because I'd say probably from January through late April, I was just playing Amalia on Explorer and paper. That was my thing. And what Amalia really is 18 pieces of redundant combo in about 20 flex slots. And the Amalia deck that I started with back in January and the Amalia deck that I have right now, night and day. Almost not even the same deck, other than they do the exact same thing. Um, and having that kind of I want to call it like the safety net of a shell of a deck that does something really powerful, and then being able to play in the gray area to optimize and improve and counter. I think you picked up on like the niche things that I throw in. Like I have a Cavern of Souls into a Knight Errant of Eos, right? I'm playing a control player that traditionally stomps an Amalia deck. They're like, "What the heck is this?" And I'm like, "It's tech, dog. Get with the times."
Welcome to Navigator's World.
Yeah, welcome to hell.
Yeah, well, that, that was my line after every like I would be losing so bad, and I would just say I'd play a land. Welcome to hell.
No, but I think we saw it again with Lila when I did the Nivtalite. Nivtalite's another toolbox deck this last week. Like JJ said, we went to the tournament. I play Lila undefeated slick shot and I just destroy like the first two games, then quickly lost after that. But because of that tech decision, like I was able to outpace aggro and really put a threat on board turn 3, which the Niv to Light deck doesn't do. On top of that, it's a it's a Niv Mizzet hit. On top of that, I don't know, it does a bunch of stuff. It doubles down on all my multicolored spells.
Yeah.
But I think, all of that put together, what it showed me is I've gotten a lot better at card evaluation. So the genesis, like I said, I think was both playing Amalia and really, really getting really familiar with the deck, and then really messing around with the gray area, and also playing a bunch of limited. You noticed it like starting back in January again with what was the remastered set? Ravnica remastered.
Yeah.
Yeah, starting back when they did Ravnica remasters, I started playing a lot of limited, and I think limited being the great, or like draft being the great equalizer, especially when I don't do a lot of research about what's good in a set. It just forces you to do good card evaluation.
Hmm. Yeah, and I noticed that when we first started playing that, honestly, when you first started playing, the cards you were exposed to initially, you ran with them. I remember like you played Bruner, you're like I like this, and you started immediately building around the idea of what card could do. The only thing that was lacking was your exposure to other cards.
Mm,
So as you've played and become more and more attuned to, or like in as you've learned more about all the cards in the game, your evaluation is just soared. I mean, I feel like I could reliably call on you to evaluate a card as soon as it hits the market, as
mm.
soon as it's revealed. Like, what do you think about this? And you'll have you know, it's better than 50-50, probably like a 75% certainty if it's good, bad, or ugly.
Yeah.
75% is good. That's like, I wish I had a, mine's like 49-51 on any given day.
Yeah. But that really speaks to the Timmy side of both of us, and I think at ACV MTG, we're really doing our best to capture our own personal journeys from Timmy to Spike, being just from casual Magic player to more competitive player. But what we talk about, the things that we talk about, are kind of evergreen in the sense that they're format agnostic. They are regardless of, you could be a group of commander players, you could be um, you could be all about modern, you could be all about standard, you could just be about limited. The things that we talk about, while they are in the pioneer context, are really just how to be a better player of the game of Magic. So if you love Magic, this stuff that we talk about, this path that we are on, we want to first identify with you because like JJ said, I'm not allowed to wear my jersey in public because I'm not good at Magic. um,
You're great at Magic.
uh, but we're trying to be better, right? Just trying to be better at this game that we love. So I think that's a good break into the topic for today, which is the rock paper scissors of Magic. So JJ, have you ever heard of rock paper scissors?
The game rock paper scissors, or
Yeah, yeah, where we go like this.
the cards rock paper scissors. There's a, I think
Yeah,
MTG Nerd
from
Barrel
the
gave me a,
unset.
I think
I
that
saw
gave
that
me a.
once. I saw that once at an RCQ, totally unrelated. Here I go on the sidebar. At an RCQ, it's normally high roll, odds or evens, how you want to start the game. Homeboy pulled out rock, papers, and scissors and put him face down, and we played the game to decide who goes first. That made my day. I want to
That's
get a
so good.
playset. They're broken. But no, JJ, the rock, paper, scissors magic analogy. So essentially, what it is this way to simplify and codify our understanding of the cycle of a metagame, where it talks about how different types of decks, different types of archetypes interact with each other in basic elements like rock, paper, and scissors. where aggro is rock, pa- paper is control, and combo is scissors, right? So, and mid range, as our tagline says, also exists. Right? So
Yes.
aggro is rock, control is paper, combo is scissors. So aggro beats combo, combo beats control, and control beats aggro. So aggro beats combo. What that means is um, aggro decks, as you know, apply constant, serious, threatening pressure that disrupts a combo deck just trying to do its thing, right? The pilot of a combo deck has to stop trying to advance their own game state in order to react to what the aggro player is doing. And whenever you're forcing an opponent to react, you have tempo, right? You have an advantage, an intangible advantage in the game, right? Because they are spending their limited resources to answer the threats that you already put out to advance your game state. So combo beats control. So they combo almost doesn't care about what a control player is trying to do, right? They bypass all these little creature removal defenses like, oh, you have a fatal push in hand. Guess what? That's a dead card. Like, you you have an edict in your hand. Guess what? That's a dead card, right? Okay, you have one or two, counter spells. Well, I'm casting so many spells in one turn. Also, doesn't really matter, right? So a combo deck just finds a way to break through control's defenses and wins a game in a single turn, right? Even if that combo player just has to be patient, they tap out for it to fairy. All right, game over, buddy. It's my turn, right? And then control beats aggro, right? Control decks just neuter fast threats, right? They'll you'll go tit for tat, turns 1 through 5, and then ultimately they'll get to a big win condition, whatever it may be, in order to turn the corner and then present the aggro player with something they have no answer to, right? So again, I think we talked about it in our previous videos when I started playing Niv Mizzet, which is kind of more of a control deck. My biggest threat, it's like in between controlling combo. It's kind of this weird, amoeba of a mid range. But one of the threats that I identified was aggro, and then I just traded resources. All right, you play a, insert fast hasty creature here. All right, lightning helix. You play an Amalia, okay, vanishing verse. You play a phoenix, okay, vanishing verse. And like, oh
Yeah.
look, I have a 6/6 flyer that just got me like 5 more cards in my hand. Let's see how you do, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So that's the rock paper scissors and magic. What do you think about that?
I think that's an interesting way to look at it. I mean, I know there's like Nib Mizzet's a good deck to kind of discuss in that template because it falls in between a couple of deck ideas. Uh, but I can see it being rock paper scissors, hammer, and like a couple more in there to where it creates that the wheel of violence that we were talking about the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Where this beats that, and that beats this other, and this other beats this one, and this one beats all the way until you get back around to the beginning. And so yeah, I believe that the wheel exists, and I think when you're evaluating something like Niv Mizzet or Bring to Light, whatever formation that is, against something like aggro, then or something like control, then you can almost do the math on how the spells are cast or the number of spells cast.
Mm-hmm.
Because, by turn 3, they've cast 6 spells, the aggro deck has. The control deck has not, and they're kind of waiting for their moment to do the thing. Whereas, like Bring to Light, you kind of have a little mix of uh, both of those, where you can cash out a little bit early to hold yourself up, but you still have that investment in those larger spells, like Control has.
Mm-hmm.
Control has this huge. They're putting all of their investment in this later game that they hold you off until they get to that later game, in which they try to keep you at bay. But I can see how Niv Mizzet defies that, or it accomplishes that as well. But it also accomplishes an earlier game that does that where you're casting those spells, you're investing in two parts of the game.
And you know what? That's a really good point to hit on, is that the best decks in a meta game, and again using Pioneer as an example, but the best decks in a meta game live somewhere in the gray area, where typically control beats aggro. Well, what emerged? So, tracing this cycle through, let's say, the last 8 months or so of Pioneer, you had an over dominating mono green deck that got neutered by a ban, right? A single ban just broke open the metagame. And from that void came an Amalia combo deck, right? That was faster than Lotus Field combo, that turned off. It was an aggro combo, right? But it comboed in a way that it made all of the other go wide aggro decks, a moot point, right? It would just wipe the board and then win. And out of all the other combo decks that had existed, it was fast like aggro in beating them. Like they could do their thing before the Lotus Field player could do their thing. So from that came the emergence of Azorius Control, right? As an answer to Amalia combo. Not only did the spells interact in a way where they could disrupt the combo, but they could also neuter the aggro threat with temporary lockdown, freaking leyline binding, like all the simple stuff that Control has to get their win condition. Then you have this control dominant metagame going into the Pro Tour. And the deck that emerges and has been dominant since was an aggro mid-range deck that would normally lose to Control, but is nuanced enough that it made Control's threats irrelevant, being Rakdos Vampires, right? You have this threat in Vein Ripper that requires the opponent to sacrifice a creature in order to be targeted. And you know what Control really doesn't do a lot of? Play creatures, right?
Any.
Any whatsoever, right? And so, you have this, what I would put as an aggro leaning mid range deck being Rakdos Vampires, right? Because it took your traditional Rakdos mid range shell, broke out some fluff, and put in this Sorin Vein Ripper tech, right? That just absolutely perfectly answered the control question. So yes, this analogy exists, but if I were to further the analogy a little bit more, understanding the rock paper scissors of Magic gives you a grand strategy overview of analyzing Magic the Gathering, right? Again, whether it's Commander, modern, standard, limited, it just gives you this 30,000 foot view. And then on the ground, you have tactical decisions, right? That will put your element over the edge, right? Will give you the decisive or tactical advantage to win the game, right? And that's the nuance that's difficult to grasp. But once you understand the grand strategy, then you can look down on the ground and be like, okay, this is why Rakdos Vampires is effective. This is why Niv Mizzet is starting to emerge as an example, like as a controlling, dominating factor to it, right? Because not only do I play creatures that I don't really care about in turn 2 and 3, but then I make threats that you can't even answer as the Rakdos aggro player, right? And it's still control. So with that grand strategy, though, if you understand that, you can take the analogy and then become predictive, right? Where you can take a look at what's going on in your local metagame. Again, so if you're playing competitive Magic, you're taking a look at what's going on in your local area heading into an RCQ, whether that be at, FNMs or weekly Pioneer nights or what have you. You're gathering that information, and then you can make a decision where, like, oh, we're at a threshold. Waste Knot's everywhere. Niv Mizzet is everywhere. you know what? It's time to break out the aggro again.
Yeah.
But Rakdos vampires also exist. So I have to do stuff in a way. My aggro deck, again, going from strategy down to tactical, my aggro deck needs to be fast enough and malleable enough to deal with the threats that would have otherwise, made my approach irrelevant. And Amalia still exists. So that's why I think we're starting to see the emergence of this Orzhov Humans deck. Again, we're talking Pioneer specific here, but you can apply the same template anywhere. But you see the emergence of this Orzhov Humans deck that just taxes heavily on any combo or control player. Or you see the emergence of this Gruul uh, aggro deck where you have the printing of this new card in Slickshot Prankster that, you know what, I don't have to play it to board right away. I can do this new mechanic called plotting, meaning I'm going to put this out to the side and you're going to know that it exists. And you bet the turn that I put it down, that means stuff is about to pop off, right? I'm going to be casting about 5 different spells and maybe you can react to 2 of them, but I'm going to overwhelm you in such a fast manner that I'm gonna win. This one creature is gonna do 20 damage to you, right? Which I think is how like that's what I mean, like this new threshold of the pathway to magic nirvana in
Hmm.
in that once you make that recognition, it changes your gameplay, I think, entirely.
Yeah, and it's interesting to think about what with using the rock paper scissors analogy. If you're playing with a scissors and someone is playing with a rock, the thing that can destroy the scissors might also destroy like you have to understand the tech that affects not just that popular deck, but what all the other things that it affects throughout the meta. For example, like pick your poison. When that was introduced, it didn't just affect the Rakdos vampires. That wasn't the only thing it touched. It also made you sack your Niv. It also made you sacrifice and maybe an enchantment. Was it enchantment or artifact as well?
Yeah, destroy a creature with flying, or sack creature with flying, sack enchantment, or sack artifact, I believe.
Yeah. So your Aether Flux Reservoir could have got tanked. But
Or a
it's
temporary lockdown, or a
yeah,
ley line binding.
yeah. It's like this. It's interesting how the things that are available to certain decks also become the thing that makes other decks in the meta obsolete.
Yeah. So it's, I think this is, so it's cool to talk about. At the end of the day, there's this theory. So from that theory, we make a hypothesis that if this then that, then, and it's a series of statements, really, like H1, H2, H3, aggro, aggro beats,
Are
uh,
you gonna prove? Are you gonna prove the null hypothesis?
yeah, yeah. We're gonna fail to support the null. Yeah. But it's funny because I just helped my wife with her stats project like last night. So all my stats vocab is just refreshed.
So
Uh,
good.
um, but so, and we're gonna play test and we can think about this. This is another tool in your toolbox as a Magic the Gathering player to be thinking about as you play out games. Like, why am I not doing well? Why am I not performing? If you are given, the perfect pilot, say you're playing technically tight, you're doing everything you're supposed to, you try and figure out, why you're not doing well. Well, this could be another lens that you apply to your perspective. But to test our hypothesis before, we jumped into this call, before we even started playing, I put this into the new Omni version of OpenAI. And this is really interesting, JJ. So I put the question, if Rakdos, so I gave it all the tournament statistics for the last 2 weeks. It came to the apt conclusion that Rakdos midrange or Rakdos vampires is dominating the format. I'm like, all right, thanks, genius. Right. But I posed the question, right? Now we're trying to get into predictive metrics. If Rakdos midrange is dominant in the metagame, what deck should I play? And quote from ChatGPT: if Rakdos midrange becomes dominant in the metagame, the best strategic choice would be to pivot to a control archetype. This is because control decks (parentheses paper) are generally well equipped to handle aggro decks like Rakdos midrange by neutralizing their threats and stabilizing the game. And what have we seen in reality? Niv to Light, right? Niv to Light is back, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So then I'm like, okay, let's take this a step further. um, and it gave this whole thing. So I said, let's continue this analysis through two more iterations using the rock, paper, scissors analogy. So if control decks like Niv Mizzet Reborn become dominant in the metagame, the next strategic move would be to pivot to a combo archetype. Combo decks are designed to win the game with a specific combination of cards, often bypassing traditional interactions and control strategies. You know, if we have a lot of Niv Mizzet, what would be really great to be playing, JJ?
Lotus Field.
Lotus Field. Lotus Field. And again, strategic decision down on the ground level. We were talking on the phone about this. You know, you have to consider things because I said I hate Lotus Field.
We agreed to hate it.
Right? That I would play Quintorius, but you came up with a very valid observation like, hey, your threat is unmoored ego, right? So the threat to the control player or the combo player against the control archetype is a single card that totally pulls apart the combo, which Unmoored Ego against Quintorius would do because I don't have enough redundancies, right? If you take out, Quintorius can't, the Planeswalker, then, I'm going to spark double a bunch of dinosaurs, right? That's
But you could. That's like a backup. That's like
yeah,
a
right. It is a backup, but it's ineffective ultimately. So if we see a critical threshold of Niv Mizzet emerging in the meta, like I wouldn't be surprised if we saw those freaking greasy haired Lotus Field players coming back out
well.
from their
What's
mom's basement.
is Discover a cast?
I don't know.
That's a good
I
question.
don't know.
I don't know. That's something
Hold on. We
I
have the
haven't done.
technology.
Yeah. Discover exile cards until you exile an online. You may cast that card. Okay, it's a cast.
Mm.
So, I mean, humans. Drannith Magistrate is an answer. Um,
Again, nuance. And then once you see a lot of combo coming off, right? Once I see a ton of freaking Quintorius combos and Lotus Field combos, putting stuff into exile and trying to bring back to the board, I'll be like, me Tranith Magistrate, right? And then we have a nuanced version of aggro and the cycle continues.
mhm.
Right. So this is really interesting because we have traced back from November 23 to time of recording this strategic arc take full form. It's a cycle. It's a cycle that will continue to play out in competitive Magic, whether you're playing Modern, whether you're playing CDH, whether you're playing EDH with your friends, whether you're playing, I mean, not including politics, right? This is just game, right? Whether you're playing standard or you're playing in limited archetypes, right? You can make strategic decisions based off of the rock, paper, scissors, and magic.
Very nice. Yeah, that's cool. I like that analogy. It kind of gives a. It's something that we have organically, like moved towards as well with our discussions. We've been
Yeah,
talking about this wheel. We call it the wheel of violence, but
because we always choose it.
we always choose some part of the wheel of violence. Some of the spokes are missing. Sometimes we get a flat tire in our wheel of violence, but it's still a very violent wheel.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So that's all I had. I wanted to hit on like this very important topic that I think is really widely applicable. Give anyone that listens to this another tool in their tool belt. JJ, you have anything else?
No, I'm curious. Like, are we going to build out a meta wheel?
We can.
Or maybe it might not be a full wheel. It might be like a wheel with some like
Spokes.
spokes in there. Like it won't. It'll be
Yeah.
like wedges.
Yeah.
Meta wedges.
Meta
But yeah,
wedge.
it'd be fun.
It'd be the ACV MTG meta pizza.
Meta pizza. Grab a slice.
Grab a slice. Hey, if you'd like to see us make a meta pizza and talk about it on the show, hey, write it down in the comments.
Extra
Yeah, just last
sausage.
last housekeeping note. If you took anything away from this talk that we just had, the only thing I could ever ask, we don't do a Patreon, we don't do, an OnlyFans, we don't do any of that paid stuff. The only thing that
Chandra's feet.
yet, right? The only thing that we could ask is that you like, subscribe, share with a friend, and then I would, if you're feeling extra motivated and you want to give back just a little bit more, I would love to hear two things that you took away from this discussion, whether it's something you observed in your local metagame, whether it's a question that you have or a point that we made that you think you can take and apply this week in your Magic play. We'd love to hear that.
And I would love to hear you brag about a move you made. Like, I cannot stop thinking about playing that control deck against my crappy Hammer Time deck after I had already lost, right? Then, or no, actually, I won. I 2-0'd this guy, and then he pulled out. He said I should have played control, and I said, well, let's play it out. And he tries to play. He has two mana untapped. He plays a Teferi. It's on the stack. I move to counter. He counters my counter, and then I play a second counter to counter his Teferi. It was such a I felt like I lost horribly, but that moment, I would love to hear your boss moment, your
Your
violent
boss moment.
moment
The
of
moment of
violence,
violence.
the
Yeah.
moment of violence.
All right. That's all we got. Let's play some paper magic, JJ.
Let's do it.
All right.